A Colorado bounty hunter tasked with taking fugitives to jail is now behind bars himself.
49-year-old Jesse Wagner was hired by multiple bail bondsmen to track down wanted criminals. Now he's accused of kidnapping, extortion, and other felonies.
Denver 7 investigative reporter Natalie Chuck uncovered his lengthy criminal record.
We've been combing through court records involving Jesse Wagner for weeks now. Turns out, while he was tracking fugitives here in Colorado, he was wanted in another state. Our investigation reveals there are no regulations in place to prevent a convicted criminal in another state from coming to Colorado and becoming a bounty hunter. We want to warn you, this story does detail accusations of sexual assault some viewers might find disturbing. At a crossroads.
It was traumatizing.
That's where one woman found herself on May 20th, 2023. Either stay put.
I'm getting kind of scared.
Or run.
I thought jail was safer at the time.
Safer than what she says she had to do to stay out of it. To understand how she got here, we have to back up.
Last May, I was contacted by a bounty hunter that was hired to look for me for a bond that I had jumped on.
We are calling her Jane to protect her identity as the victim of a violent crime. Jane is no stranger to bail bonds, having a criminal history involving drugs and theft. But she was a stranger to bounty hunters.
I went to go get my nails done. Next thing you know, I walk out the nail salon and I'm contacted by Jesse.
49-year-old Jesse Wagner. He was supposed to take Jane to jail when he found her.
Things were really different when we were alone. He would look back at me and he'd be like, why is somebody so beautiful in trouble, and just making weird comments like that.
Instead, this arrest affidavit states Wagner told her she could work off her debts and get out of this life she was living, and gave her a bunch of false promises. She fell for these promises and agreed to help Wagner catch other fugitives.
When I wouldn't answer him or text him back right away, that's when things got really weird. He would impersonate a cop just to get into my apartment complex. He looks like a cop. People respect it and they don't ask questions about it.
The affidavit details allegations of extortion, kidnapping, and unlawful sexual contact. It says Jane told police she would rather do anything than return to jail, and Jesse hung it over her head.
He had control everywhere, no matter where we went.
She says Wagner put an ankle monitor on her, tracking her. Text messages described in the affidavit say Wagner was calling Jane baby, bought a plane ticket for her to come to California with him, and offered her $100 to come over to perform oral sex. Jane admitted she and Wagner did have sex once. She tells us she did not want to.
Took me inside of his house with the handcuffs on. Took me inside the room and had me like that. Telling me that if I didn't do certain things that he was saying to me, that I was gonna go to jail.
A cycle of control that allegedly went on for weeks came to a head here, back at this crossroads.
Check on police and fire, just settled. I am a bail enforcement agent. I'm going to do a compliance check.
The night started here, Jane helping Wagner and other bounty hunters apprehend a drug dealer in Lakewood, according to the affidavit. Afterwards, she asked if she could go get food because she was starving. Really, someone was parked at this gas station waiting for Jane to escape. She made a run for it.
I reached my apartment, locked the doors.
She says Wagner was not far behind. The affidavit describes him kicking the door in.
When he got in, he pulled out the biggest baton that I've ever seen, and he started beating me with it.
That night, she wound up in the hospital and later jail for a violation of bail bonds. Months later, Wagner ended up in jail too for what Jane says happened that night. But this is not his first time behind bars. Court records we found reveal Jesse Wagner was set to appear in a San Diego courtroom back in October. There, he faces kidnapping, false imprisonment, burglary charges, and more. In court that day, Wagner's attorney told the judge, Mr. Wagner is not present in court today because he's currently a guest in the great state of Colorado. He was in Jefferson County Jail. California records also note Wagner was previously convicted in 2006 of robbery, a felony, meaning this body armor he is wearing in this video about 2 years ago in San Diego also a violation of the state's law.
There's a whole bunch of people that's been in trouble, but Jesse tops them all.
William Ellenberg has been both a bail bondsman and bounty hunter in Colorado since 2009.
Here we go.
He was not surprised when we wanted to talk about Wagner's case.
If they don't put regulations in, most of these bondsmen, like the ones that hired Jesse and his little entourage, they're going to have issues.
The state's Division of Insurance confirmed with us bounty hunters do not have to be licensed in Colorado, meaning the bail bondsmen hiring them don't have to do a background check.
You have to know the right people.
Who is Jesse Wagner to you?
Jesse is a bounty hunter, fugitive recovery agent that we hired.
Roy Jones is the owner of First Stop Bail Bonds. He hired Wagner for about a dozen jobs, including Jane's.
I thought he was great, very efficient. Everything that he does, he definitely came with a different swag than anything that I have seen before.
Wagner's arrest affidavit states, a quick Google search of Jesse Wagner bounty hunter brings up a litany of articles involving Jesse in a variety of nefarious activities while performing duties as a bounty hunter. You didn't background check him, or did you feel the need to?
We didn't feel the need to.
Why not?
Well, he's an independent contractor, just as every other bounty hunter, fugitive recovery agent. He came with his credentials, and he came very highly recommended.
You're putting people at risk.
People at risk with criminal records.
Nobody will look your way or help you. And that was difficult. That was very difficult.
Forced to choose, speak up.
It was hard for me to make this choice.
Or let the cycle keep spinning.
But if I wouldn't have done it, who else could he be hurting at the time?
Police are asking if anyone else thinks they might have been a victim of Jesse Wagner to contact them. We did request an interview with Wagner and were told he wanted to speak with his attorney first. We never heard back. Wagner's trial is slated to start in November. In the meantime, we are working to figure out why Colorado does not regulate bounty hunters and asking whether the state should. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
Tonight, Denver 7 Investigates continues pushing for answers after uncovering an unregulated system in Colorado.
So we told you in August about a bounty hunter with a lengthy criminal history and new charges he was facing in Lakewood. And we explained how bounty hunters don't have to pass background checks here in Colorado.
Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck continues looking further and found that there are several bounty hunters in our state accused of serious crimes.
While that bounty hunter, Jesse Wagner, has been sitting here in the Jefferson County Jail behind me, we have been doing some research. All of these documents right here, these are all cases against people accused of committing crimes while acting as a bounty hunter. And all of them were already convicted criminals.
Telling me that if I didn't do certain things that he was saying to me, that I was going to go to jail.
The type of threats and intimidation this woman claims she endured for weeks, all at the hands of this man, Jesse Wagner.
He had control everywhere, no matter where we went.
The man hired by First Stop Bail Bonds to find her is instead behind bars for what law enforcement believes he did to her. Wagner is charged with extortion, kidnapping, and unlawful sexual contact.
I guess that's what shocked me the most on your report, that this gentleman potentially abused this woman.
Jacob Monroe owns Rocky Mountain Academy of Bail Bonding and Fugitive Recovery. For almost 30 years, he has built a career on training bail bondsmen and hiring bounty hunters.
There needs to be a check and balances to ensure the safety of the defendants and to ensure the integrity of the bail bonding business.
Wagner's criminal history might be the most shocking part of all of this. Right now, he is facing similar charges in California, and Lakewood police say he was previously convicted of statutory rape, robbery, and false imprisonment. But none of that matters under Colorado law. You do not have to pass a background check to be a bounty hunter. That change came back in 2012 after state law was amended.
It was determined that fugitive recovery in Colorado at that time was not a danger to the public.
Not a danger to the public. But these documents paint a different picture. Denver 7 Investigates uncovered at least 5 other cases where bounty hunters were charged for crimes they are accused of committing while on the job. kidnapping, impersonating a peace officer, even a federal prison sentence after illegally obtaining cell phone records. All of these charges came after 2012. All of the bounty hunters previously convicted of other felonies.
And it really has hit me that bail agents have to have some type of format whereby they're held accountable when they hire somebody like the gentleman who's now in Jefferson County Jail.
We asked the bail bondsman who hired Jesse Wagner, why didn't he background check him first?
Well, he's an independent contractor, just as every other bounty hunter, fugitive recovery agent.
Google it. It's a lazy Google man. You just punch in his name and where are you from, California? What city? Punch in his name in that city.
I'm almost overwhelmed with the amount of things to say on this.
Galen Trine McMahon is a human rights lawyer.
The victims of this kind of unethical bounty hunter behavior, they often have drug addiction issues, have mental health issues. They're not often the most sophisticated or educated. They easily fall by the wayside or fall into realms where they're invisible.
Other bounty hunters, people acting as bounty hunters, have been arrested since 2012 and charged with a number of crimes. What does that say to you about the system?
It says to me it's not just a one-off problem where a bad apple comes in. It's a systemic incentive problem where the lack of regulation is allowing bounty hunters to use their power and use their authority to extract things that they want.
A systemic problem. So what's the solution?
I don't know that I would say I have the exact answer and what the legislation should look like, but I think it's worth the attention of legislators to look at.
I just think they need to get the laws up to speed.
Now, we have reached out to several lawmakers, calling on them to watch our reporting and decide for themselves, does this law need to be changed? None of them have committed to sitting down and speaking with us, but we will continue asking. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
Drinking on the job is the allegation against a Denver public school teacher. Coworkers claim administrators waited months to take any action.
Denver 7 Investigates has been speaking with whistleblowers and digging into these accusations for months. Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck shares what the school district is refusing to tell you.
The past year has been really hard. It has been depressing. It's very scary.
Hard, depressing, scary. Not typically the words describing an elementary school, but that's exactly how these three staff members describe what happened on this campus last school year.
It has been the most difficult year at Columbian to history for myself.
They all worked at Columbian Elementary School.
We all wondered if we were just crazy.
We are concealing their identities because they are afraid of retaliation after making this accusation.
It's very scary to know that Denver Public Schools did nothing to remove an intoxicated teacher.
All three of them, along with several other sources, claim a second grade teacher was drinking on the job for months.
I know by November at least, people were talking to the principal and the admin about smelling alcohol.
November. When we asked Denver Public Schools about the incident, we were told the teacher was placed on paid administrative leave on April 3rd, 2024. That's roughly 5 months later.
I actually ended up calling Safe to Tell the Thursday night before spring break, and that Friday morning, the giant security guard came in and they removed him.
Why did you choose to call Safe to Tell?
I was so frustrated and couldn't understand why nothing was being done, and I was frustrated with myself for not thinking about it earlier, like as an avenue to go through. I think the parents of those children deserve to know what happened and what the principal of their children's school allowed.
The principal?
Drew Hall.
Drew Hall. It was her first year as Columbian Elementary's principal.
Months went by, and again, there were more reports, people reaching out to Drew Hall, and still nothing happened.
After getting these tips, our team started requesting records from Denver Public Schools, thinking this has to be documented somewhere, right? Well, we didn't get much, not because these records don't exist, but because the school district is refusing to give them to us. We asked for disciplinary records against the teacher and reports of any security visit to the school the day Safe to Tell was called. In both cases, we were told DPS is in possession of documents responsive to your request, which are exempt from disclosure. Our request denied.
One thing we did get was a string of emails to administrators from one student's grandparent, one of them about a teacher accused of being intoxicated. It reads, 8 teachers have reported him drunk. The grandparent tells us the email was sent in January, but there was no timestamp on the copy provided by the district. We also asked for emails to or from several administrators throughout the course of the school year, involving the teacher's name and the phrases alcohol, drinking, intoxicated, or inappropriate behavior. We got back a few typical emails about the teacher's hiring process, but we also got this, a letter saying the district will not be releasing some emails discussing how to possibly address personnel issues. And we did get a list of the 10 emails being withheld. The earliest dating back to December 13th, 2023. The person who sent it, Drew Hall. We cannot confirm exactly what was written in any of those emails.
Why did you feel it was important to come forward and bring this to the public's attention?
I think the public needs to know what's happening in Denver Public Schools, that they are not taking care of the children.
We reached out to Drew Hall, but never got a response. As for the school district, we asked multiple times for an interview. We were given a statement. It reads in part, when a report of a potential unsafe environment is received by a school leadership team, they follow established policies and procedures to fully investigate the allegations. It goes on to say, Denver Public Schools cannot comment on the allegations due to the district's longstanding policy against speaking about personnel matters publicly.
Do you think anyone will take accountability after this airs?
I hope Denver Public Schools takes some accountability and removes Drew Hall and makes sure that the people at Columbian, their community and their culture is healed.
Until then, the word these staff members are left with to describe how they're feeling.
Hopeless. Hopeless.
DPS tells us the teacher on leave will not be returning to the district. It's not clear if the teacher was let go or resigned. You heard that the district follows policies and procedures when reports are made. We asked for a copy of those policies and procedures. It says employees may not be under the influence of alcohol during work, and the district uses breathalyzers and urine samples to enforce that policy. When asked if this teacher was ever tested, we were told the district is not able to answer that. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
Chilling revelations from a Columbian elementary school employee when Denver 7 Investigates exposed a principal accused of ignoring allegations of a teacher drinking on the job.
We're now learning that principal will not be returning to the school, which is set to close at the end of the school year due to low enrollment. Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck joins us now in studio.
And Natalie, these new details are developing as we speak.
Absolutely, Micah and Jessica. I'm told that the district is actually tying up some of those loose ends when it comes to this tonight. But yes, we can confirm that the principal at the center of our previous investigation is no longer employed with Denver Public Schools. A reminder, concerned staff members came to us claiming a second grade teacher was drinking at work. Principal Drew Hall knew about it and nothing was done. Take a look at this letter obtained by Denver 7 Investigates. It was sent to families today and signed by multiple administrators. It reads in part, it is our priority to keep you informed about events that impact our school and students. It continues, we are writing to inform you that Principal Hall will not be returning to Columbian Elementary. This comes after she was placed on paid administrative leave less than a week after our initial reporting. Not only is Drew Hall no longer working there, but a spokesperson for DPS tells me the investigation involving her is over. So we are working to get the results of that investigation. The district confirmed everything in the letter, but says this is a personnel matter and they are not able to provide more details. In the meantime, I did make some calls. I spoke with a parent who did not want to be identified. She says parents are very upset about Columbian Elementary closing, and many of them believe Drew Hall is to blame for it. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
Thank you so much for joining us for Denver 7 News at 10. I'm Jacqueline Allen.
I'm Shannon Ogden. I'm glad you're with us tonight. A local doctor says he's afraid for his life. The man accused of trying to kill him could be released from custody.
The victim contacted Denver 7 Investigates, telling us this is now possible after recent changes to a Colorado statute.
Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck has been tracking the case and spoke to the doctor who says he is now reaching out to raise awareness of what's going on here.
Yeah, it's all very confusing, and he never thought he would be stuck in the middle of a case like this, and says it could happen to anyone. What we are dealing with here is the intersection between accused criminals, the judicial system, and a shortage of mental health resources. Caught in the crossfire are not only victims, but also people in need of mental health treatment. Advocates and experts will tell you most of these cases do not involve serious crimes, but in this case, a man almost died.
I'm getting home late.
Most of us spend a lot of time at work.
This is my office, Academy Park Family Practice.
And this office, Dr. Scott Green's office for the last 25 years.
This is where I belong.
This is the last place he thought his life could be cut short.
I heard a struggle up front and my receptionist called my name.
What follows is outlined in this arrest affidavit. Details of a targeted attack. A man tells the receptionist, "I'm only here for Scott."
I'm not here for you.
Also in the affidavit, details about a man struggling with severe mental health issues.
He turned and approached me and backed me, I guess, into this doorway. He stabbed me with a large knife that should have been fatal.
Ross McPherson, 28 at the time, was arrested nearly a week later, charged with multiple crimes, including attempted first-degree murder. Scott believed the justice system would take care of the rest.
He would go to trial and he would get the sentence that was appropriate.
But none of that is happening.
It's an area where the justice system here in Colorado needs improvement.
These are really complicated problems.
Leora Joseph is the director of the Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health. Part of her job is overseeing the state's mental health hospital, otherwise known as SIMHIP.
Only the mental health facility in Pueblo can handle patients who have pending charges, felony 1, felony 2, or felony 3.
Court records show Ross McPherson is incompetent. 2 years after the crime, it was decided he would never be fit to stand trial because of his mental health. Previously, state statute said the court may dismiss the defendant's case if the defendant is found incompetent to proceed. But as of this July, the word may changed to shall, meaning a judge has to dismiss charges in cases like this.
Let's go ahead and get on the record.
Inside a Jefferson County courtroom, a judge, the defense, prosecutors, and Scott all grappled with the reality that the man accused of stabbing him could be released back into the community.
If he's out, and I think that it is likely that he would come back and try to finish what he did before.
If the criminal case has to be dismissed, that's one thing. But the idea that the person can still be released back into the general community without treatment, without medication, and without justice in the criminal case, I think we're failing the community until we improve that system.
Michael Doherty is the district attorney representing Boulder County. He is no stranger to defendants dealing with incompetency, having just wrapped up the trial against the King super shooter.
If you have someone at the Boulder County Jail today who's languishing without mental health treatment, that's not fair to them either.
You can't hold someone in jail if charges are dismissed. And you can't send someone to the mental health hospital if there is no room for them. The state hospital is a place known for a lengthy waiting list.
We're watching now as this brand new bill is playing out. We're seeing where some of the potential gaps could be.
This is that bill she's talking about. It passed here at the Capitol during the last legislative session, and it's what some people are pointing to as the reason for what we are seeing unfold. Right here in black and white, it explains what will happen if a defendant is not likely to be restored to competency, and it says the court shall dismiss that case.
Well, it doesn't really matter how long you're sitting in jail. You're not getting help.
Judy Amabile is one of the main sponsors behind that bill.
This is a horrific crime, and this person shouldn't just be set free. That isn't the outcome that anybody wants. That isn't good for the victim. It isn't good for him, the perpetrator of the crime. He obviously needs care.
With this House Bill 1034, there was no funding passed in it. What is your response to that critique?
Yeah, we would have liked for there to be funding, and we originally did have funding in it, but we understood that the bill wouldn't get passed.
It has great intention to be able to bridge that gap between the forensic, the criminal justice system, and the civil system. That's an important mechanism. The question is, now what?
What I, of course, would like to see is that if you've committed a serious crime, that you are then given a placement in a state hospital or in a contract hospital to get the mental health care that you need.
But it's not that simple. Remember that waiting list at the state hospital we mentioned? That means a judge can't order Ross McPherson there with no bed available.
I can't drag it out any further.
Shortly after Denver 7 Investigates got involved, that changed. A bed opened up.
The sole reason that Mr. McPherson was transferred was because SimHIP believed that it was appropriate given the unique circumstances of Mr. McPherson's case.
It seemed like a very odd coincidence to me that immediately after the last hearing and when your station applied to have cameras in the courtroom, that suddenly placement happened.
Between every court proceeding over the last 2 years, Scott has been right back here at the scene of the crime, his office.
I wanted to get back as soon as I can, and I did it in 4 days. I've been doing this, like always, ever since.
And it doesn't bother you to stand back here in the same spot?
This is my place, and this is where I belong.
Now, the doctor will be out of the office tomorrow morning because he will be back in court. We are expecting the judge will dismiss Ross McPherson's charges, and we are hoping to talk to the district attorney as well as his defense attorney about the complications in this case. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
Charges dropped today against the man accused of trying to murder a Lakewood doctor in his office 2 years ago. Denver 7 Investigates brought you this story last night at 10.
A change to state statute about suspects found incompetent to stand trial forced a judge to dismiss the case.
Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck has been tracking this one for weeks. She was in the courtroom this morning and shows how the victim now is responding.
Yeah, the victim in this case, Dr. Scott Green, not feeling much relief when leaving this courthouse today. He knows there's a chance that the man who targeted him could be released depending on how mental health treatment goes. Now, for the first time, we are hearing from the district attorney here in Jefferson County about what this all means for prosecutors moving forward.
The court will order the case dismissed.
Not the words this man wanted to hear, but the ones he was expecting.
Someone who's mentally ill should get help, but at the same time, society needs to be protected.
It's been 2 years since Dr. Scott Green, a family physician in Lakewood, was targeted and attacked, stabbed at work. Recently, the suspect, Ross McPherson, was deemed incompetent to proceed without restorability, just in time for a change in state statute to take effect, one that requires a judge to dismiss charges if the defendant won't be fit to stand trial, which is exactly what happened here.
I'm really troubled by the nature of the statute.
District Attorney Alexis King says this is the first time her office has had to prosecute a case like this, impacted by this amended law.
What we have is an insufficient structure that is unfunded, and it's really abdicating responsibility and sending it back to us to deal with a huge community safety risk.
Even though charges were dismissed, there is an alternative to keep him off the streets. McPherson was involuntarily committed to the state's mental health hospital through a civil court process with the goal of getting him mental health treatment. But it's something that only happened after Denver 7 Investigates started asking questions.
We only saw a commitment option that was appropriate at the state hospital, frankly, once you all turned your lens to this situation. It shouldn't be this hard to keep someone off the street who everyone in that courtroom perceives as a risk to community safety.
Especially Scott's safety. If McPherson is ever released from the state hospital, Scott will not be notified.
I think Dr. Green obtained a protection order at this point.
Is there any relief knowing that you have this protection order in place?
Very little, because even the legal system says it's just a piece of paper.
As someone who has a lot of hard conversations with victims. It's really difficult to explain why we're in this situation.
Now, right now, Ross McPherson is in the state hospital under what is called a short-term certification. That means he will be reevaluated in 3 months. There are plans for him to possibly stay there longer, but right now, nothing is set in stone. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.